All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Torah Studies. I feel like we've done this a lot lately, where the focus of the class is less on the Torah portion and more on the time of the year. We may have to explore changing the name from Torah Studies to, well, it's still Torah and we're still studying, so I'm not sure what we would change it. But it's not exactly Parashat this week. Torah portion this week is Eikev. Our focus is going to be on a very special day that begins tonight. And no, I don't mean Tuesday night. What I mean is Tu B'Av. Tu B'Av. What is Tu B'Av? It is the 15th day of Av. Now, why is Tu B'Av the 15th day? Well, Tu in Hebrew is Tezvav. Tezvav, the numerology of Tezvav is 9 and 6. 9 plus 6 is 15. So that is the way that you denote that. By the way, in case you're wondering, yes, I did get a haircut. You are not just imagining something. Again, just want to make sure that to allay everyone's concerns. Okay, now, it's not you, it's my hair. So, here we go. Tu B'Av is the 15th day of Av, and whilst it may not stick out to most of us on the calendar, according to the Talmud, it is one of the happiest days of the year. Now, if I were to ask you what are the major holidays, what would you say? Toba, what's your major holiday? Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah. Good. Give me more. What's the big holiday that comes to mind? Open to our online crew as well. Let's go. Jump in. Oh, I muted everybody. Pesach. What else? Good. Sukkot. What's the happiest holiday of the year? Purim. There's Simchas Torah. We have so many holidays. The Talmud says, Lo hayu yamim tovim b'Yisrael kamo chamisha asar ba'av v'yom kippurim. There were no other days of holiday celebration like the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur. I don't know what they were doing on Yom Kippur. Certainly where we hang out Yom Kippur, it's not much of a party. In fact, I mean, it's the best time to throw a party because you could be like, oh, I would have brought food, but, what are you going to do, right? Great. I always feel bad for the kids born on Yom Kippur. It's like, what do you get? It's not even Passover where you get like a matzah cake. Like you get nothing, right? Like what are you going to get like a few days before, a few days after? Anyway, I don't know what kind of celebration it is, but it says really in the Talmud that there were no other holidays as great as Tu B'Av, and he's here for the davening, as Tu B'Av and Yom Kippur. So there's something about Tu B'Av that is very special. And again, it doesn't stand out on the calendar like the 15th of Av, what, who, what, where, when. So the Talmud addresses it. See, the Mishnah teaches about the day. The Talmud, whose job it is to analyze the Mishnah and explain, Jewish law and practice, the Talmud asks the question, like, what happened to B'Av? What happened on this day? Why are we celebrating? Why is it a special day? And the Talmud proceeds to give several answers, of which we will explore two tonight. We'll mention the first one, which is usually cited as the primary one, but then what we're going to delve into tonight is a second answer. So let's jump in right away to the text. Toba, if you don't mind, give me a moment. And then please read, text number 1, where it says Rabbi. Text 1, yeah.
Rabbi, the grandson of Hannah, said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, "This is the day when Jews in the desert stopped dying." Rabbi Menashe said, "From the 15th of Av and onward, those who increase in their Torah studies increase in life."
Okay, so we have two of the reasons. I think there's like 7 or 8 different reasons that are cited as to why the 15th of Av is special. Rabbah says, this is the first one we'll analyze, it's the day when the Jews in the desert stopped dying. I'm going to explain this. And then Rabbi Menashe said a different answer or explanation. The 15th of Av, that's when those who increase in Torah study increase in life. Now, what is that? What does any of this mean? So let's analyze the first one first. Okay, so here we go. As you recall, this is something that we've talked about. We talked about a few weeks ago when we covered the Torah portion that talks about this directly. The Torah portion of Shlach we talked about the sin of the spies. Moses sends 12 spies to scout the land of Israel. They come back. 10 of the 12 come back with a foreboding report. They basically say the land is beautiful and the produce is lovely, but the people are terrifyingly strong and mighty. The cities are fortified. We have no chance. We are goners. We are walking into the slaughter. The people panic. They cry. And God says, this generation is not going to go into the promised land. But God does not wipe out the entire generation at that point. And by the way, just so you know, the only people that were culpable of this sin were men between the ages of 20 and 60. Why? Well, apparently the elders weren't involved in the sin. The youth weren't involved in the sin. And the women weren't involved in the sin. The men between 20 and 60, they were the ones that were involved in this sin of complaining and fretting and questioning and doubting the ability of God Almighty. And so God says, this generation, in other words, all males between the ages of 20 and 60, will not enter the land of Israel. But when were they to die? I'm glad you asked. Here's, according to one tradition, here's how it worked. So pay attention, this is very interesting. Every year, on the 9th of, the story of the spies, when they came back with the report and people were crying, was the 9th of Av, which we marked last Thursday. It was the 9th day of Av, which is the saddest day in the Jewish calendar. Every year on the 9th of Av, Jews that turned 60 that year dug for themselves a grave. Because again, everyone that was between 20 and 60 had to perish. So let's say somebody was 50. So 10 years in, they hit 60. That's it. Meaning everybody from 20 to 60 got allowed to live to the age of 60. But when you're 60, that's going to be basically it. So the 9th of Av, of your 60th year, that is when that person would pass away. And so on the eve of the 9th of Av, everyone that was 60 years old would, in the desert, during those 40 years, would dig their own grave. And they would lie down in the grave, and they wouldn't wake up. That's how it worked. Talk about efficiency in a bit of a very dark fashion. Nonetheless, that's how it was done. 40 years later, the 9th of Av, anyone that had been, I guess, 19 maybe, 40, puts that at 59, I don't know, whatever the calculation is. In the 40th year, they dug, whoever was, of that age or whatever group it was, dug the grave, lie down in the grave, and they woke up the next morning because the 40-year decree was over and the death was over. And the next night, they thought, well, maybe we miscalculated. Maybe it's not the 9th of Av, maybe it was the 8th of Av. They lie down again. And the next night, the next morning after that next night, they woke up. They did it again, night after night, until it was the 15th of Av. And then they knew that the decree of death was over. How did they know? What happens on the 15th day of the month? The 15th day of the Jewish month is when the moon is in its fullest. So if it's the 9th or the 8th or the 7th or whatever, you might not be able to discern. But when it's the 15th of the month, you can definitely tell it's a perfect circle. The moon is a perfect circle. On the 15th day of the month of Av, Tu B'Av, what's starting tonight, when they saw the moon in the sky, they rejoiced. Why? It meant the decree of death was over. For 40 years, on the 9th of Av, people were dying. Finally, it came to an end. And when did they know for sure that it had ended? On the 15th of Av. That is why it is a day of celebration, because the punishment of the sin of the spies and the death of that generation ceased. Does that make sense? That long narrative? Yes? Sort of? Okay. I hope it did, because you don't have time to go over it again. So that's that. Next, there's a second reason that the Talmud states, It's not the second, but it is a second. It's another one of the reasons. And this is the one that we're going to focus on. And if you notice, it's a rabbi named Rabbi Menashe, and he says, from the 15th of Av onward, those who increase in their Torah studies increase in life. So what we're going to wonder is, what does it mean that those who increase in their Torah studies increase in life? And why does the increase in Torah study happen from the 15th of Av and onward? And so what we have here is a commentary on the Talmud, known as the Rashbam, Rabbi Shmuel ben Meir, text number 2. And I'll read this, and he explains what happens from the 15th of Av onward. He says, because the nights grow longer and the days grow shorter. You might have noticed, which is why we're in a different room, that the days are getting shorter, mincha is getting earlier, right? There's more time at night. That happens by the summer solstice, or as I call it, the summer Sollish. But anyway, the summer solstice is when, right? That's when kind of things get shorter. It's roughly around the 15th of Av. The 15th of Av, this time of year, is when you start noticing the days are getting shorter. Sunset is starting, earlier, etc. It's getting dark already. It's not as late as it was. And so the idea is you have a longer period at night. And if you have a longer night, so what do you do at night when you have more time? You study extra Torah. I know what you're thinking. More time to go on social media. No, it's more time to study Torah. Now, why do you study Torah at night? I mean, historically, during the day when there were daylight hours, that's when you got things done. I don't know if you worked in the field, that's when you worked in the field. If you worked out in a shop or whatever it was, that's when you worked. And then you came home, you did your thing. But like nighttime is, what else is there to do? What else is there to do? Not to say that Torah is only because there's nothing better to do, but at nighttime, it's dark, you light a candle, you study Torah. That's the way it's been done for 3,300 years. And so the Talmud says, basically from the 15th of Av, this time of year, and onward, the nights get longer, you can study more Torah, and as Rabbi Menashe said, now that you can study more Torah, you get more life. You get more life. Those who increase in their Torah studies increase in life. Okay?
That's metaphorically, right?
Metaphorical. But our question tonight is, what does it mean? What does it mean that if you increase in Torah study, you increase in life? Now, you want to tell me that Torah is life? Okay, good. And if you increase in Torah study, you increase in life. I can understand that. But is there a deeper reason? Is there some sort of deeper inflection in that? It's a little bit strange because the Talmud could have said, or Rabbi Menashe specifically could have said, from the 15th of the month onward, the nights are longer and you can study more Torah, like the commentaries explain his statement to mean. But he phrased it differently. He says, those who increase in Torah study increase in life. And again, we just need to figure out exactly what he means by that. Okay, that's one interesting nuance that we want to focus on. A second interesting nuance is the following point, and that is that I mentioned before that the 15th day of every Jewish month, because just to take a half a step backward, the Jewish calendar, specifically the Jewish months, follow the lunar cycle. Every month, the moon waxes and wanes. Waxes means it gets bigger. I don't know why it's called waxes, but it gets bigger and then it gets smaller, right? It gets big. Now, it doesn't actually get bigger and smaller. It just looks. It looks fuller or less full, right? You see more of it and then you see less of it. And that is a 28.5-day cycle. Every month for the moon to wax and wane is exactly 28.5 days. Okay? 29.5 days. 29.5. That is why you will find some Jewish months have 29 days and some Jewish months have 30 days because the exact cycle is 29.5 days. Every single month, the 15th of the month, the night of the 15th, which is tonight, hey, listen, don't take my word for it. Go outside in a few hours, look up at the moon, assuming it's a clear sky, and you will see a perfectly round moon. If you want to know when the full moon is, if you are Michael J. Fox, back in the day, in, what was it, Teen Wolf, whatever that was? Yeah, and you want to know when you need to howl at the moon? Get it, buy a Jewish calendar. It makes it much easier because the 15th day of every Jewish month is a full moon. However, the interesting thing about that is what happens the next night. What happens to the moon's appearance? Is it getting bigger or is it getting smaller? After the 15th, it's getting smaller, right? It grows until the 15th. The 15th is the height of its appearance. It's full. It's called a full moon, and then it gets smaller. And so, what's interesting, and what the commentaries wonder, is very interesting how we play up the 15th of Av as this very special day, and it's a day where the dying stop, but also with regard to Torah study, you can study more Torah because the nights are getting longer, and so there's more time at night to study Torah. Sure, but it's a little weird that from this point on, the moon, which is symbolic of the Jewish people, for so many reasons, which we'll discuss as the class goes on, but the moon diminishes, which seems to have a negative connotation, and yet we're trying to put a positive spin on it. So yeah, the 15th, you're catching everything in its fullness. Sure, but right after that, it's diminishing, and it seems like, the days in which we're increasing in Torah, the moon is diminishing. How do those two energies jive? How do they work together with, kind of an increase in the vigor of Torah study and the vigor of life with the immediate reality of the moon, which is symbolic of the Jewish people, getting smaller? So again, some interesting wrinkles to iron out, and that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to use these kind of wrinkles to open up and expand our understanding of this entire conversation and really get to a profound place with regards to what Torah is, why we study, and the power of the nighttime. Okay, makes sense? So to recap, we talked about the 15th of Av, the fact that it's a special day on the calendar, even if no one knows about it, it's a special day on the calendar. We cited a few reasons from the Talmud. We're focusing on the second reason, which talks about those who study Torah at night increase in life, and we wonder, number one, what does that mean? And number two, why is this associated with increase when, immediately from the 15th, things are decreasing in the way of the size or the appearances, as it were, of the moon? Okay, so what we're going to do first in our analysis is explore what is special about learning Torah at night. Our class last week, if you recall, was about Torah study and about the mitzvah of Torah study. And it's a mitzvah to study Torah day and night. But tonight we're going to see that there's a very special thing about studying Torah specifically at night. So let's explore this. We're going to start with Maimonides, with the great Rambam, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon. This is text number 4. Tova, if you don't mind, please read text number 4. I see you're right there.
Though it is a mitzvah to study during the day and at night, it is only at night that a person acquires most of their wisdom. Therefore, if you seek to gain the crown of the Torah, be careful not to waste your nights sleeping, eating, drinking, walking, etc. Devote them only to studying the Torah and words of wisdom. Our sages declared, the song of Torah can be heard only at night, as the passage states, arise, sing at night.
Okay, so Maimonides opens by saying, yes, Torah is meant to be studied both day and night, but then he quickly pivots and says, although that's true, there's something special about nighttime Torah study. And what is it? What's special? At night, that's when you acquire most of your wisdom. I would say that the people in marketing realize that that's when people buy most of their impulse buys also, right? All the great infomercials, Ron Popeil, right? The little chopper, whatever it was, right? The Ginsu knives, boom, everything was at night. Impulse buys, people are a little bit more vulnerable. But that's not what Maimonides is saying. He's talking about this idea that wisdom comes at night. And then he mentions two things that I want to point out and we want to focus on. Number one, he talks about the crown of the Torah. If you seek to gain the crown of the Torah, then spend your night studying Torah. Okay, number one, crown. What does it mean, crown of Torah? Why not if you seek to gain the wisdom of Torah? Why the crown of Torah? What does that mean? That's question number one. And in the next paragraph, he pivots from crown to the song. He says the song of Torah can be heard only at night. What does that mean, song of Torah? Torah is wisdom, right? What does that mean, the song of Torah can only be heard at night? Yes, it's poetic, it's beautiful, I love it, I get it, but what is the deeper implication of that? So we want to focus on two things, the crown of Torah and the song of Torah, and as we'll see, both of them are connected, and both of them specifically relate to the nighttime. So I begin the analysis by asking you a question. Where does a crown sit? On top of that. On top of that. Where are the brains of a person? Inside the head, exactly. Right? So the brains are inside the skull, and the crown is on top. Okay. So when we talk about the crown of Torah, we're almost indicating something that's beyond the intelligence of Torah. Does that make sense? The intellect of Torah would be more associated with the mind. The crown seems to connote something else. So I'm going to cut to the chase. And I want to share with you what the sages and the mystics understand about the meaning of the crown of Torah. And here's how it goes. A crown is above the head. And likewise with Torah, there is a dimension that is rational and intellectual, and an element like a crown that sits and is positioned above the head, above the intelligence, above the rationale. Torah contains wisdom. Torah contains philosophy. Torah contains ethics. Torah contains brilliance. All of that is true. In fact, in last week's Torah portion, we just read it this past Shabbat, this past Saturday. Right? The Torah says that this Torah, Moses tells the people, this Torah is your wisdom and your understanding in the eyes of the people who say, wow, what a wise and knowledgeable people this is, who possess the great wisdom of the Torah. So Torah, on the one hand, is all about wisdom and intellectual study and ideas and philosophies, and all of that is true. And yet, at the same time, there's another dimension of the Torah, and that is the crown of Torah. So the head of Torah, the ideas. The crown of Torah is something else. What is the crown of Torah? The crown of Torah is, when you study Torah, when you're cognizant, maybe that's a head term, when you're aware, when you feel, when you sense that Torah is not just an academic pursuit, but Torah is God's wisdom. And therefore, when you study Torah, you are forging a relationship with God Almighty. So, when you and I study Torah, there are two things that are happening. Number one, you're gaining the wisdom. You're gaining information. Number two, you're connecting with the author of the Torah by studying his Torah. In other words, when God authors Torah, God invests in the Torah, and then you and I study that Torah that God invested in. You and I are developing a relationship. God says, oh, you're studying my Torah? We're connected. Oh, you study my Torah? You're excited about my Torah? Good, I'm excited about you. So Torah, it's almost like, I sometimes think about this, and I think I mentioned this recently. Like, you take your kids to a baseball game, right? So there's two things that are happening. You're both watching a baseball game, but you're also spending time with your kid. A baseball game is a great way to spend time with whoever you're with, because every few minutes something happens. So it's great. You got a lot of time. I usually bring text to prepare classes, and I usually take a nap and whatever. There's a lot of things that happen at a baseball game. But you can also spend time connecting with the person sitting next to you. So the question is this: when you study Torah, what is your focus? Are you in it for the ideas, or are you in it for the relationship? And which relationship? To the author. When you study God's Torah, you're connecting yourself with the author, with a capital A of Torah, God Almighty. You're also gaining ideas. The question is, which is primary, which is secondary? Both are happening. When you study Torah, you have to study with your mind. You have to understand it. It has to make sense, right? It has to click. You have to grasp it. You have to get it. All of that makes sense. It's ideas that you're learning, but at the same time, there's something meta that's happening. And that is, you're not just learning ideas, but you're connecting with the author. And as you're connecting with the author, you are privy to the essence of the author, to the essence of the one who authored it. In fact, the mystics say in Kabbalah that the first word of the Ten Commandments, Anochi, God says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God. But God uses for the I, right, for I, Anochi. Anochi stands for 4 words. Ana, it's Aramaic, because Zohar was written in Aramaic. Ana nafshi kesavis yahavis. I wrote, I inscribed my soul and gave it to you. Meaning Torah is not just God's ideas, but Torah contains God's essence. It's almost like, imagine you wanted to convey your very being, your very essence. And you decided to somehow compress it in a document. And you said, anyone who reads this, anyone who studies it, is connecting not just with my idea, but is connecting with me. You're taking me with you, not just my ideas. That's what Torah is. Torah is not just God's wisdom. Torah is a piece of God himself, as it were. That is the crown of Torah. So there's the wisdom of Torah. Those are the ideas. And then there's the crown of Torah. Wisdom is in the head. The crown is above the head. The crown of Torah is how you and I connect with the author. It's about the relationship and not solely about the wisdom. Let's take a look at text 5. Such a beautiful text. Wow, so poetic. All right, let's read this inside. I'm going to read this. Text number 5 from the Bach. He writes, God's intention was always that we study the Torah to meld our souls with his powerful spiritual holiness, the Torah's source. Studying the Torah with this mindset transforms us into a vehicle and chamber for the blessed divine presence. It means that God is literally within us, for we become the chamber in which God dwells. God gave us the sacred Torah, something he loves and in which he delights every day, so we could attach our souls to its spiritual sanctity and draw God into our midst. Torah is not just a set of ideas. Torah is how we connect with the author, how we connect with God himself. Torah is, again, I don't even want to say the word less, because I don't want to rank which is more important or which is more primary. But Torah is not just, Torah study, the experience is not just learning ideas, learning new information. It's about connecting with the source, connecting with the author, connecting with God Almighty. So let's continue and talk about the song of the Torah. So that's the crown of Torah. Well, what is the song of the Torah? This is text number 6. Text number 6 was referenced a little bit by Rambam, but it's the full source from Tractate Tamid, which actually speaks about the temple. Text number 6 is where we talk about the song of Torah, because we talked about the crown of Torah, which we just explained, and then we had the song of Torah. Well, what is that song of Torah? So here we go. Rabbi Chia said, God dwells among those who study the Torah at night. As the passage states, arise, sing at night, at the beginning of the watch, pour your heart out like water before God's countenance. So, again, we need to reset our second question. Well, what is the idea of the song of Torah, and why is that specifically connected with night? And so here we get to the big reveal. What is it about night versus day? So symbolically, day represents clarity. Day represents spiritual presence. Day represents illumination. Day represents a feeling of connectedness and wholesomeness. Whereas night represents distance. Night represents separation. Night represents confusion. Night represents darkness. And in this context, spiritual darkness. Right? So when we talk about light versus dark, it's not good or bad. Specifically, it's more about connection versus disconnection. It's about clarity versus confusion. That's what night and dark, that's what day and night, or light and dark, are really signifying. So when you study Torah during the day, and again, I don't mean this only literally, but I also mean this figuratively. What does that mean? You feel connected. You feel connected, everything's good, everything's fine. You're studying Torah. When you study Torah at night, what's happening? You feel a tension. You feel a separation. You feel an ache. You feel a longing. You feel a yearning. How does that impact your Torah study? When you're feeling clarity and contentedness, paradoxically, your Torah study might be reduced to the level of an intellectual pursuit. Everything's fine. Everything's good. Let me find out some more information. But when you're at night in a state of separation, in a state of distance, when your heart and your soul aches for God, when you're yearning for God. Sama lecha nafshi, my soul thirsts for you, God, says King David in the book of Psalms. When your soul is thirsting for God because you're feeling disconnected, you're feeling distance from God, then paradoxically where you're seeking is not just the wisdom of Torah, but the connection of Torah. You're not seeking the wisdom of Torah, you're seeking the crown of Torah. And that's what the song of Torah is also about. The song of Torah is not the wisdom either. The song is how we sing to get close, how we sing to connect, how we sing to attach, how we sing about our love for God and our desire to get close. You know, I once heard a great definition of love. Love is a feeling of closeness and a desire to get closer. And you know the problem? The problem is what happens if you feel that you are close and you can't get any closer. You know what happens then? The fire kind of dims a little bit. The fire of love is all about overcoming distance. The fire of love, or the passion of love, is about overcoming the distance between the two parties. If you feel that you're already connected, then it becomes still. Okay, so basically there's love like water. The book of Tanya talks about this. There's love that's calm like water. Imagine like a stream, a bubbling brook, the Chattahoochee River. Is the Chattahoochee River calm? I think it is, right? You can go down in in an inner tube on the Chattahoochee River, right? So you have love that's like a calm flowing stream, and then you have a love that's like a flaming fire. What's the difference? What's the difference? It says that familial love, like the love between siblings or whatever it is, that's like water. Meaning you feel close and that's it. There's a connection, it's inherent, like you're connected. What else is there? So it's calm. But love between two strangers essentially, that are coming together, meaning two people that didn't grow up, as family, and now they discover each other and they like each other, and now they love each other. There's still space. There's still a gap to breach. There's still a gap what the right word is, to overcome. And that generates the fire and the passion and the love. By the way, that's what you'll find in some relationships. When everything is going well, you'll have one party that might decide to create some drama. Why? Why create some drama? Because if we're not overcoming something, then what's going on? Like if there's no drama, then there's no energy, then there's no love. It's like, well, I can love you and that's it. And how's it going? Fine. Like that's love. There's got to be energy. So how do you get energy if you're like this? You pull apart. You can come back together. I'm not suggesting this, by the way. I'm just saying psychologically on a spiritual level, or a spiritual, psychological, emotional, physiological, biological, chemical level. I can keep on going, but I'm going to stop there. That's what might be happening. We might be subconsciously creating distance to overcome. In other words, love. Getting back to this definition, which I love. Hey, look at that. I love like water, maybe not like fire. But anyway, this definition that I love is feeling close and desiring to get closer. If you can't get closer, then you don't feel love, right? So it's about wanting to get closer. So here's the deal. During the day, all ties into our day and night kind of paradigm. During the day, symbolically, day represents connection. You feel connected. What's there to get more connected? God, we're connected. I'm going to study Torah. I'm going to gain more information. At night, angst, separation, distance, confusion. It's the heart aching, the heart wants, the heart thirsts, the heart yearns for a relationship. Not for ideas, but for a relationship. The Torah we study at night is the crown of Torah, motivated by the relationship, not by the ideas. It's the song of Torah, motivated by the song, by the expression of the soul, and again, not about the head. It's about the heart, and it's about the soul. It's about the song. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
There's two modalities of studying Torah. You can study Torah for the information. A Talmud 101. That's an academic course at your local whatever. But then there's Torah, there's God's Torah, and that's what comes out at night. When you study Torah at night, what you're doing is you are singing a love song to God. You might also be gaining information, but that's not the primary element. The primary element is that you are connecting with God. And again, that paradoxically happens at night. Specifically when you're more distant, that's when you need to get closer, and that's when the motivation is about the relationship and not just about the ideas. Let's take a look at some texts. Let's take a look at text number 7. I'm going to read this one. This comes from the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad. In his book, Torah. He wrote many books, or there are many books written of his scholarship, and this is one of the big ones, text 7. The angels of all the worlds, even the most exalted worlds, sing songs of praise to God. This text explains what singing is. These songs reveal their intense desire for a connection with God and their yearning and pining to be absorbed in His endless blessed light. They are in a constant, uninterrupted state of longing because God is their only love. They have no other outlet to express their love other than singing. They cannot study the Torah or observe the commandments to draw God to them from above. All they can do is desire Him from below. That's a powerful paragraph, by the way. Right? There's no outlet to satisfy your desire. All you feel is unending desire. It's crazy. Accordingly, they sing their love song at night. The divine presence is concealed and hidden at night, which inflames their desire and yearning for God. For it is well known that we only desire what we don't have and crave what we can't get. You know what the other expression of that is? Distance makes the heart grow fonder, right? That's the way it is. Or as King Solomon, I think, writes, he says, stolen waters are sweeter, right? Like what you can't have, you really, really want. I mean, just look at the first two human beings, Adam and Eve. God says, whatever you want is yours, except for that one thing. Don't worry about that. Everything else is yours, just not that one. And where do they go? To the one thing they can't have. You put distance between someone and something that they're intrigued about. The next thing you know, all they want is that thing. Darkness is the catalyst. It's incredible. It's the darkness, meaning the opposite energy, that is the catalyst for the greatest propulsion of love, desire, and yearning for God. And when does this happen, or when is this signified? At night. And that's why the night Torah learning is so special. Reminds me of a joke where there was once a rabbi in the shtetl in a small town in Europe, and he comes into the kitchen one night to grab a cup of water. He's thirsty. And he sees the Polish, maidservant in the house, whatever, the help in the house. She's sitting, a Polish woman, doesn't know Hebrew, doesn't know Aramaic, never studied Torah. She's sitting at the kitchen table with a big volume of the Talmud opened in front of her. And he's so confused. He says, what's going on? He says, what? You studying Talmud? She says, no, but I can't fall asleep. And I've noticed that every time you open up this book, you fall asleep. So I figured there's something in it okay, that's the joke. Look, Torah study at night is special. Not just because it can cure insomnia, but Torah study at night is special because it's about the connection, not just about the information. Now, again, what we're talking about here is we're combining symbolism with, reality. And so it's always important to understand that there's a symbolism and a reality, and although they're connected, they're not exclusive. You can study Torah during the day and it be all about the crown of Torah and the song of Torah and the connectedness. And you can study Torah at night and it might only be about the information and a very pragmatic, utilitarian process. All of that is true. But typically, the daytime Torah study, which is marked by a feeling of you feel good, you feel connected. You're probably more into like what you're going to get from it vis-a-vis the information that you're going to glean. Whereas the nighttime Torah study, it's at night, it's connected. You feel disconnected, a little ominous maybe at night. Things are spooky at night, and all you want is a connection with God Almighty. All you want is a connection with your Creator, and that's what you're doing. You are singing a love song to God. So we've connected a bunch of themes. I just want to kind of recap before we move forward. We've connected the notion of the crown of Torah with the song of Torah, with the nighttime, and with the idea of connection versus information. There's the informational Torah study and then the connective Torah study, and the two are a little bit different. Now, let's take a look at text 10. And here's where the Rebbe brings these ideas together. What I've shared with you in the last, 20 minutes or so, kind of bring it together in a beautiful way. This is text number 8. Toba, please read this one, please.
We merit the crown of the Torah through night learning, not only because it's easier to devote ourselves without distraction at night, which allows our studies to settle in our mind. It's also and primarily because the night has a special energy that enables us to learn in a way that attaches us to God, not just His wisdom. Connecting with the Torah's giver entails studying it with humility. Only then can we connect to its sanctity, and the night is a propitious time to arise our sense of humility.
Thank you. That word here I've not used thus far tonight, but that's an important word, humility. When a person feels good about themselves, then maybe their only interest is more information. But when a person feels humbled before God, then their interest is about connecting with this grand reality that they feel in awe of and they feel so, humbled before. All I want is a piece of that. I want to connect with that because I feel so small compared to that big light. And that happens at night. The night evokes our humility. The night evokes our frailty. The night evokes our kind of disconnection. And that is precisely when we're most excited to connect with the giver of the Torah. So now we can understand a little bit about the power of nighttime Torah study. And about the power, because if you recall, Rabbi Menashe said, what's so special about the 15th of Av? How do we start tonight's class? The 15th of Av is special day on the calendar. Many reasons are given. One of them is because at this point, the nights are getting longer, right? The nights are getting longer, and so you have more time for nighttime Torah study. So if nighttime Torah study is valuable, more nighttime Torah study is even more valuable. There's more time to study Torah with the nighttime energy of connectedness versus just information. If you recall, originally I asked the second question, which is, well, how does that jive? How does that square with the fact that the moon is diminishing? And now we understand that the two, it's not a question, actually the two go hand in hand. What does it mean that the moon is diminishing? Now, I think it's important to reread the Talmudic story, the Talmudic narrative that teaches us why indeed the moon is diminished vis-a-vis the sun. Take a look. This is something that you might be familiar with. You might have studied the story before. This is found in the Midrash and in the Talmud. This is text 9 from Talmud Tractate Chulin. Rabbi Shimon, the son of Pazi, posed a contradiction. On the one hand, it's written, and God made the two major luminaries, meaning both sun and moon are called major luminaries. On the other hand, it is written, the major luminary to illuminate the day, and the minor luminary to illuminate at night. Meaning this very same verse says God made two great luminaries, and this is the great one at day and the small one at night. So what does it mean that there's two major luminaries if one is not major, one is minor? So the Talmud explains that there was a story. The moon complained to God. The moon said to God, Master of the universe, is it possible for two kings to share one crown? If we're both major luminaries, this town ain't big enough for the both of us. God replied, Lechi umi'ati esatzmech. God says, go diminish yourself. Make yourself smaller. And everyone who reads the story has the same response, has the same reaction. What? You speak truth to power and you get smacked down like that? The moon is pointing out something legitimate. The moon says, how can two kings share the same crown? And what does God say? God punishes the moon. That's not nice. You punish a whistleblower? You punish the guy who raised his hand with a question? You're out? What does that mean? The moon asked a good question. And now the moon is the minor luminary and the sun remains the major luminary? That doesn't seem fair. But you know what's amazing about this? What's amazing is when you read the Talmud carefully, you realize that God didn't make the moon small. God didn't diminish the light of the moon. You know what God did? God told the moon to diminish itself. Look back at the text. God replied, go diminish yourself. Let me ask you a question. What does it mean, go diminish yourself? How can the moon diminish itself? What does that mean? It's created by God. It's either a major luminary or a minor luminary. What do you go diminish yourself? God should have said, now I'm going to make you smaller. What does it mean God says go diminish yourself? This opens up the story to another way of understanding it. It's not God taking punitive action. It's not a reprisal against the moon speaking up. It's God sharing a blessing with the moon that the sun doesn't have. The sun feels so high and mighty and powerful and bright. And God says to the moon, I'm going to give you a blessing, the ability to be humble. The ability to be awed in front of something that's greater than you. We all know people that are like the sun. No matter what's happening, they consider themselves to be the brightest person in the room. No matter who they meet, no matter what happens, I'm the most important, I'm the brightest. You know who the moon is? The moon is someone who can read the room. The moon is someone who can have reverence before something or someone greater than oneself. The moon is someone who can cry. The moon is someone who has a semblance, who has not only a semblance, but who has a sense of humility. And you know what being humble is? Being humble is not thinking less of yourself. Being humble is thinking of yourself a little bit less. To be humble means that you're thinking of the things around you, the things that are maybe greater than you, the things that are important. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm not thinking about what I need. I'm thinking about what those around me need. I'm thinking about the needs of others. I'm thinking, how can I be of service? How can I make a difference? How can I fulfill my purpose? Not how can I be the biggest son and give off the biggest impression. We all know those people. People who have to give off the impression that they know everything, that they have everything in control. And it's not true because no one has everything in control. What God is telling the moon is, I'm giving you a blessing. You're asking, how can there be two kings wearing the same crown? Good question. I want to give you a gift. The gift of awe, the gift of reverence, the gift of humility, the gift of humbleness, if that's a word. The gift of being able to be in awe. The gift, here's how it works. Here's how it works. In the sky. I don't have a 3D model with me. I don't have the planetarium, models. But here's how it works. Earth, sun, right? If the moon is here and the sunlight shines, right? Then we on Earth, we see the moon and the whole moon illuminates. When the moon is right in front of the sun, you know what happens? We don't see anything. We don't see anything. You know what that means? When you think you're close, you don't shine. When you feel your own distance is when you shine. You caught that? When you feel smug and self-assured and you feel like, I got it, I have it, I'm close, I've arrived, I've made it, I'm successful, I got it. Paradoxically, the closer you feel, the less light you're shining. The less divine light you're reflecting, because it's all about me, it's all about so much hubris. It's almost like you're soaking up everything There's nothing left to shine. Taking everything, as opposed to when you feel distant, when you're the furthest away from the sun, when you feel the furthest away, when it's at night, getting back to our night versus daytime analogy or paradigm. When it's at night and you're feeling distance and you're the moon not right by the sun, you feel like you're the moon away from the sun, and all you want is to get close, that's when you begin to shine, and that is the gift. That is the blessing that God gave the moon. The moon said, what's going on? And God says, let me give you the greatest light. The light that's born of humility, the light that's born of a sense of distance. I think you and I know that the greatest momentum we've ever had in life followed a setback. There is no greater propulsion, there is no greater energy than that which comes through failure, through misstep, through feelings of inadequacy, etc. Yes, there are negative feelings that can take us down, but channeled the right way, they can propel us forward like nothing else. In classic Hasidic terminology, we call this Yerida L'Tzorech Aliyah. It's the descent that is for the greater ascent that follows. It's the slingshot. You got to pull it back in order to go forward. Hold on, you want it to go that way, why are you pulling it that way? Well, that's the way it works. You got to pull it the other way in order that it can propel itself the opposite direction. This is the power of Torah study at night, when things are not so clear, when your head doesn't have the clarity, when you don't feel so smug and close with God and purpose and truth, when you feel a little confused and you need a little help, because then your Torah study is pure. It's filled with humility. It's like the moon that feels far but is now shining the greatest light. And now the Torah study is not just studying the wisdom of Torah, you're getting the crown of Torah, and you're singing the song of Torah. And so, my friends, starting from tonight, starting from the 15th of Av, and it's starting to get dark outside, the night is getting longer. And that doesn't mean more Letterman. Oh my gosh, I'm dating myself. Like 20 years ago, that would make sense. It doesn't mean now more late night TV or more Netflix or more doom scrolling and more whatever, pacing around the house. No. Extra time at night, you know what that means? More time to study Torah with a song, with a sense of connection, not a sense of smugness and a sense of intellectual, show me someone who's very smug and I'll show you someone who says, I don't know that I agree with that idea of Torah. Come on. Torah is not only ideas. Torah is about a connection. You're reading God's book. There's nothing cooler than that. And so as the nights get longer, let us commit to singing God's song, to studying Torah. Join me tonight at 1 a.m. I'm kidding. But everyone in their own time, in their own place, in their own homes, study some Torah. Listen to a podcast. Watch a video, right? Open up a website, read something. Open up a book, right? No blue light in your eyeballs, right? Open up a book, old school, little analog action. Study some Torah, right? And connect with God. Will you learn in the process? Will you gain information and wisdom? Sure. But the most important thing is that connection. May your night times be filled with Torah and with divine connection. And let us say, Amen. Thank you very much for joining me tonight for Torah Studies. And by the way, you and I know, give it a few weeks or a month or two or whatever it is. And these classes at 7:30, it'll be dark outside. Be pitch dark outside. Yeah, something special about Torah study at night. Study Torah during the day, and then top it off with Torah study at night, because that is the real thing. Okay, questions, comments? Made sense? Makes sense? Good?
Ari.
Yes. Hey, Mom.
I wanted to add that why is Yom Kippur the happiest day of the year besides Tu B'Av?
Ooh, I like it.
When the Kohen Gadol comes out, when the high priest comes out of the Kodesh Kodashim alive, it means that all the sins of the entire nation were forgiven.
I would add to that based. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and they're looking forward to a good future year.
I would say, based on what we said tonight, the energy of tonight, there's no greater. So Tu B'Av, right? Starting from tonight, it's about the nighttime. It's about embracing the distance, embracing our failures as opportunities for greater springboard for growth. Isn't that the same energy as Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur is all about a day of introspection and reflection, and we tap our chest and we say, we did this and we did that, and we mention all of the inadequacies and all of the failures and all of the shortcomings that we had collectively over the last year, and that doesn't get us down. That gets us excited about connecting, about connecting.
It's the ultimate show of humility.
Yes, exactly. It's the humility that's the springboard for connection, because Yom Kippur is also about connection. I always say, right, it's not a day of atonement, it's a day of at-one-ment. It's a day that it's also atonement, but it's also at-one-ment, which is cool that it works in English like that. But it's a day of becoming at one. It's becoming one with the source. All right, good, excellent. Thank you for mentioning that. That works. All right, questions, comments? Make sense? All right, good. My son, who has been studying, Ellie, you met him. Shalom, who's been studying in Chicago for 3 years, the last 3 years, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, just completed final semester yesterday, flew out of O'Hare this morning, and came with 6 of his friends from around the country. We have someone from Denver, someone from West Virginia, we have someone from Florida, someone from Maryland, someone from, I want to say California also is represented. We got from all over. And so there are 7. Did you see any yeshiva students back here that were walking by? At some point I saw in the reflection, you might have noticed some young men with black hats walking around. So they are coming here for a week to study and tour and have fun in Atlanta and the surrounding areas. They're going to hit the Chattahoochee River. That's why I was talking about shooting the hooch before. They're going to be doing the Beltline and Ponce City Market and the Coke Museum, and they're going to be going to Chattanooga and all of the wonderful the Blue Ridge Mountains and checking out the Southeast a little bit. So it's really beautiful. Why am I mentioning that? I don't know. It's what's going on. It's what's going on in my world. So
It's a nice thing.
it's a beautiful thing.
It's beautiful.
It's a really beautiful thing. Yeah, it's good boys. Good
Don't
crew.
forget to send them to the aquarium. That's really something.
Yeah, well, they're very much on a budget, and it's quite costly. It's like $60 a pop. Yeah. So I think it's out of their I think it's out of their budget. Is there anything kosher at Buc-ee's? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sure there is. Yeah. Oh, I don't know about the food, but I'm sure like you can buy a bag of Lay's chips that have a kosher sign on it. Yeah, but I mean otherwise, I don't know. Buc-ee, is that like the big stuff? Like the big Yeah, I'm with the Chattanooga. Yeah. I think we stopped there.
Maybe somebody could sponsor them.
I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, as of right now, they have a nice itinerary. Very excited. So they're doing like the mornings, we have like a bit of a yeshiva for them. So they're studying 8:15. Can you imagine this? They finished 3 years, they're still 8:15ing. 8:15 on vacation. 8:15 studying Jewish mysticism. I'll be teaching them actually. And then 9 o'clock morning prayers, breakfast, more studying. They make lunch and they take lunch to go and they go on their adventure for the day. So that's the plan. Very excited for them. Really good group of guys. So, and they're all going to different places. A bunch of them are going to California next year for school, for their 12th grade and beyond. One is going to France, to Paris, to Brunois, Sandrine. And then one is going to Argentina. Of course, he chose Argentina when he thought that they were going to bring home the World Cup. Now, he's like, can I change? I'm kidding. That's not true. It has a very good yeshiva over there, and it's a bit of an international crew that we have. All right, I think that's it.
Thanks, Rabbi Ari.
My pleasure, Joel. Great to see you. Laila Tov, everyone. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you all very soon. Pleasure. Laila Tov. Take care.
Laila Tov.